The Tennessee Titans and Miami Dolphins have found their head coaches in Robert Saleh and Jeff Hafley, respectively, and we are re-ranking the 6 head coach jobs that remain in the NFL on today's NFL Six Pack.
This is Locked On's NFL Six Pack. 6 bold takes from 2 guys who just flat out know football. NFL experts Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock bring pure NFL talk. Great takes, no fluff. Just honest football talk. Crack one open. It's NFL Six Pack on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the NFL Six Pack. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen of the day. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. It is what we do. So we appreciate you for stopping in and hanging out with us. Make sure you're all subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts, and get those mailbag questions in for this Thursday, this week's Thursday mailbag edition. And we're going to reference one of the mailbag questions from YouTube in the comments, I think, on today's program as we rank these head coach jobs. One of our listeners making a good argument for a certain team.
All right.
But breaking news here, Robert Saleh is now head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and that happened quickly. And I think we're going to see now with the next round of interviews for teams, a lot of these teams that have known they've had open jobs could get to work a little bit earlier and have first round of interviews. And for those teams still playing, most of them that didn't have a first round bye, you had to wait until their team lost before you could interview somebody in person. And so Robert Saleh flew to Tennessee. He had his first interview with the Titans. He wanted them, they wanted him, and all of a sudden, after a 5-hour interview, it was a done deal. And Robert Saleh is the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And this process fascinates me, Matt, because teams have to move fast. Coaches have to move fast. You can't string along a team and then they go hire somebody else, and then you're left in a musical chairs fashion without a chair at the end. And for a team like the Tennessee Titans, they just saw what happened with John Harbaugh, who was supposed to go to Tennessee to interview, and the Giants said, no, we're going to get this done before you get there. Now, whether he was using them as leverage or not, it seems like John Harbaugh really valued having a young quarterback in one of these landing spots for him. And so I would imagine that was pretty significant for Robert Saleh to go to Tennessee and have that first in-person interview after he interviewed via Zoom for, I think, every job opening that was out there. Maybe he had a feeling there wasn't going to be another offer, or maybe he thought, this is my job. And for the Titans, they can't wait because they just saw some other team take another guy and not let them go to their building. So they kind of have to figure things out and do the same thing themselves. And a lot of people thought that, Nagy from the Chiefs, the offensive coordinator, was the shoe-in for Tennessee. But apparently the Tennessee Titans were blown away by Robert Saleh and his plan for his offensive coordinator, and reports where he was very detailed in what that plan was going to be. And so Robert Saleh becomes the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and they did not let him leave the building after that 5-hour second interview and the first in-person interview. And this one's fascinating because unlike the Dolphins and Jeff Hafley, there's not the connection of already knowing this coach and being in the building with this coach for a long time, like the Green Bay situation for the new GM and head coach in Miami, which we'll get to in a second. But what do you think about Robert Saleh and his fit with the Tennessee Titans, man?
Yeah, and obviously it's the first time in my Steeler lifetime I've really had to deal with a coaching change. And you're right, it is a very fascinating process when you dig in and you got a horse in the race. I'm really interested to hear your take on Robert Saleh as the man. I've heard all good things. I don't think there's any reason to think differently. I think it's safe to say, looking in hindsight, he was not the problem with the Jets.
Clearly, right. Yeah.
I think that's safe to say. That may even make his resume look better, that he was, better than the guy that came after him and was able to kind of survive there. And he kept the Niners defense more than afloat, despite taking harpoons from every which way, so I thought he really boosted his stock this past year. When we ranked the jobs originally, I had Tennessee pretty high. I think ownership is questionable, but they have the most cap space in the league right now, and by a wide margin, by like 10 million, which reminds me a little bit of the Patriots a year ago at this time, because they also have a quarterback who I love, to be very honest with you. I mean, I think Cam Ward is very appealing. They have the better part of an O-line in place. Okay. They got Simmons. I mean, for being a bad team, they have a few things. They have D-tackle. They have big people. They have O-linemen and D-tackles and a quarterback, and a lot of resources to go shopping on the open market like the Patriots did last year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be a Final Four team next year, but I could see the appeal of the job.
Surprised you stopped short of calling them for the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC, like okay, but no, yeah, and so I think if you're a head coach candidate, specifically if you're not an offensive-minded play calling head coach, maybe you have a little bit more ego to think, oh, okay, I'll fix quarterback and I'll figure out the offensive side of the ball. That's why a team's bringing us in. If you're a defensive-minded head coach, especially, and if you're probably any head coach candidate, you're circling the teams that have a quarterback that you like.
Yeah.
The 49ers saw the Titans this year, and Robert Saleh, and, coaches kind of do, even if the quarterback's bad. So, can't say 100%, but if he just took the job, you could probably believe he's pretty sincere. The kind things that he was speaking very highly of Cam Ward before that matchup with the Titans. And the 49ers did beat the Titans, as most teams did that played the Titans this year. But that has to be a huge factor for Robert Saleh, because that's the thing that they couldn't figure out in New York was quarterback. Yeah. And now you get to see a rookie season of a quarterback. It's not just a draft pick. It's not just talent. You don't just think that he's going to be good in the NFL. You got to see him play in the NFL, and you know what you're dealing with there. And so that has to be huge for Robert Saleh. And I think as far as the candidate, you asked, what kind of guy he is. I've seen a lot of Saleh throughout the years. He immediately came and fixed a lot of the problems on the 49ers defense. So that's one thing that the Niners, after DeMeco Ryans left, had 2 one-and-done defensive coordinators, and things just weren't quite right. Robert Saleh came in and okay. Oh, there it is. Fixed. Great. That's done. And even with all the injuries, the way they were able to get through this says a lot about Robert Saleh and how the guys played for him. I think he's really smart. He's well respected. He's I think one of the best things you can say, and look, I'm not in the meeting, so I can't say for sure, but one thing is that his teams play very sound under him as a coach. And when he speaks, you believe what he's saying. And I think that's pretty good.
I think that definitely reflects in what I see as an outsider as well. One point I wanted to get back to, I love that you brought up, is that they did play each other this year, the Niners and Titans. And that matters because he's a defensive guy. I mean, he spent the better part of a week breaking down every aspect of Cam Ward and the offense, and probably thought, boy, I'd like to work with that.
And has a unique perspective of, okay, we also had to scheme to beat him. So I can help him. I can help tell him how teams are trying to beat him to help him make him a better quarterback, even though he's not going to be the offensive coach and the offensive coordinator. And that's another aspect of this thing. He probably is able to say, look, here's a text message from Mike McDaniel, who said if he doesn't get a head coach job, he's going to come be my offensive coordinator. So that might help in these job interviews too, because apparently he was very detailed on that side of the ball, because that's obviously what hurt him. The defense was awesome with the New York Jets, and he wasn't even the play caller. He allowed Jeff Ulbrich to be the play caller when he was head coach of the Jets. And according to reports, he said he's not going to do that this time. He's going to be calling plays for the Titans, at least for a while. Who knows if he develops another DC that he allows to call plays. We see that happen sometimes, but he's going to call plays on defense for the Titans, is according to reports. So I like the hire. I think Robert Saleh deserved another shot. And if Cam Ward is that dude, I think that the Titans can eventually turn this thing around, because I think they're going to play sound defense. I think Robert Saleh is a good head coach. And as long as they have that quarterback and he gets a good coordinator in there, whether it's, one of the Kubiaks or one of the LaFleurs or McDaniel or somebody, from, I'm sure, that Shanahan McVay tree.
Got to be from that tree. Sure.
I mean, well, do you think that that's a really good fit for Cam Ward's play style, to be in more of a Shanahan style offense?
That's a good question. I haven't given that much thought. And that is, for the most part, I almost say yes to any quarterback, that it is a quarterback friendly system. But I wouldn't say he's an ultra quick Purdy processor or Stafford.
That's kind of where I'm going, because Trey Lance immediately, the team was like, dude, you got to get rid of the football.
You got to get it out.
Right. Yeah. And you saw, with some quarterbacks that are on the extreme of that. Justin Fields is a great example, right? And the 49ers didn't like Justin Fields in the draft. They liked Mac Jones more, because you got to anticipate, you got to get the ball out quick, you got to play in time. And if you're holding the ball, then it kind of falls apart. You've got to let it rip, and you've got to be willing to throw into some tight windows. So talent alone, and we've seen that the 49ers have leaned toward guys who are less talented physically, but you can anticipate and you can get the ball out and you can throw it into some tight windows and over the middle of the field. And that's kind of, and that's Kyle Shanahan, and his proteges and other coaches have done things slightly different. But, speaking of, let's say it's Mike McDaniel, who's the new OC potentially with Robert Saleh, which I think would be a home run combination. I've been trying to put those guys together for a long time. Because I think it's just a perfect match of like genius offensive guy, maybe not a leader of men as much as Robert Saleh is, but he can be that guy. And you put those together and you might really have something.
That'd be a great pairing.
Mike McDaniel might look at Tua and be like, well, I wish you had Cam Ward's arm and athleticism. That would be a lot of fun to coach. And so you can see how that could be put together. And you can start to have a lot of fun potentially if you're a Tennessee Titans fan.
Yeah, and he doesn't get it out like Tua does or process like Tua does. That's the thing Tua does well. That would be my concern. But, I mean, maybe Saleh looks at Ward and says, hey, when we game plan for you, we wanted you to hold the football because we knew you would, and then bad things happen. But, again, I just think there's a lot to work with the player.
Absolutely. The Miami Dolphins have found their guy, and GM John Eric Sullivan went back to Green Bay to hire his head coach. It is former defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley, and let's re-rank the remaining 6 head coach openings now in the NFL, now that 4 of the 10 have been filled. Next. Today's episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by Indeed. If you ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't quite right as a fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster, and sponsored jobs boost your post to people who are the best match for the role. So spend more time interviewing candidates who actually check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. And our listeners get $75 sponsored job credit to help give them the premium placement it deserves. Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL is where to go. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Today's episode is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood predictions markets change the game, really. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Okay, we'll get to today's six pack, which is going to be a ranking of the 6 job openings that remain. And we already know that John Harbaugh is the new head coach of the New York Giants. He's there. We saw him walking in with the family and making the whole presentation in the building as the new head man there. Same for Kevin Stefanski, who's the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. We touched on that a little bit yesterday. And if you have more thoughts on that, Matt, you can drop them on us. But I want to talk about Jeff Hafley next, who is the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And it's usually pretty telling when and that was the other fascinating part of the Saleh hire is it wasn't like, you hire a GM out of the San Francisco front office, he hires Robert Saleh, right? This was an independent GM, went through all the interviews and hired a guy. The Hafley hiring is much more like what you see most often, where there's a big connection, and I'm sure Jeff Hafley was at the top of the list and was a big selling point in John Eric Sullivan when he's getting the GM job out of the Green Bay front office for Miami, selling them on he had some really good candidates and the people he wanted to interview, the people he wanted to hire. So now Packers former defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley, who has some head coach experience at the college level, becomes the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, so he's been a Steeler candidate too, so I did more deep dive on him a little bit more, and that's always hard. So don't take this stuff as gospel. I don't like commenting on assistant coaches because I know that I don't know. But I will say he has apparently just been killing the interview circuit. You know, that he's been very, very impressive with all the teams he's interviewed with, kind of blowing people away. So that's very positive. He's a former head coach at Boston College. But to be frank, I think college and NFL are just so different nowadays that he's got more college on his resume than I would like. You know, it's not just a short stint with the league, but there's a lot of college in there and a lot of assistant coaches at Ohio State and stuff like that, which is a lot different than game planning to beat the Bills and those type of things.
Chip Kelly comes to mind where it's like,
yeah.
I mean, you belong in college, you know. But
most don't make that transition great.
Yeah.
And lastly, their defense fell apart when Micah Parsons got hurt. And I know he's considered a pretty good schemer, but I didn't love the last taste we got from the Packers defense.
Experience-wise is weird. And look, I'm not saying anything about the hire being good or bad. And I don't have as much, connection and history covering Jeff Hafley, even though he was a former 49er assistant back in the day as well. He clearly well thought of. So what can happen in this interview process is you can sort of, fake your way through it and have a really good interview, but not end up being a really good head coach. But the thing is this is a guy that the GM has been around. So he knows that was a long interview, right? That began a long time ago before he was GM of the Packers. So it's not just that, he was a slick interviewee and you give him the job based on a sales pitch. They have a connection and they know him, which is usually pretty important, which is why these GMs go to somebody that they know, that they spent time with and they've worked together for a while. It's a good point. And I didn't really think about that it's real easy to look good when you have the bullets. What is your what does your team look like when you are behind the eight ball and you have to really
kind of the opposite of Saleh.
It's not like Saleh's defense was awesome after Bosa and Fred.
No, but it survived.
They survived. They hung on for their life, right? And they got through and they won a playoff game, right? In Philadelphia on the road, which is something that the Packers, down the stretch weren't able to do. So
it's not the most appealing job in the world either. They don't have a lot of cap space. They need a lot of stuff. I'm not sure they had pick of the litter from choice and candidates, but I do think the familiarity in Green Bay is telling.
Yeah, it's super telling. And you don't always have it's not like Hafley had all 10 jobs knocking down his door. He's like, pick one. He's like, you want to be a head coach? You want to go back and be the defensive coordinator again? It might have been one of those. Might have been one of those situations for Robert Saleh too, because even though you're interviewing everywhere, I think you can probably sense. Do they like me? Do they want to give me this job? And again, going back to the beginning of this podcast, the process. If a team lets you leave, it's pretty telling, right?
Yeah.
When they let you fly away, they're trying to hire somebody else, probably.
Probably. And I don't know that. I know we're going to talk about the other openings, but I don't know that Pittsburgh or Baltimore or Buffalo was real serious about Hafley, But good for him. I mean, again, it's one of 32. We are going to rank these. There's a couple that are also pretty frightening that you got a lot of work to do. And, I'm sure Tyreek won't be back. And what do you do in a quarter? There's a real albatross, a quarterback for Miami. That's going to be a difficult thing to get around. I
mean, that's the big one. What do you, it's all about quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Hafley, again, we just had the conversation. You're a defensive head coach. You get your first head coach job in the NFL. Quarterback is an odd situation in Miami, to say the least. And,
you could argue it's the worst quarterback situation in the league.
Yeah, because if you don't like the quarterback you have, he's also expensive and messes up your cap situation. So you can't just cut him clean if you don't like him and start from zero. You're starting from negative.
And you already have no cap space, right? Why do you get the next guy,
And who you bring over as an offensive coordinator is it going to become one of those Packers East, Packers South situations where it's, you just bring everybody over from Green Bay. I wonder what Jeff Hafley's Rolodex looks like. And if there's a hot coordinator, maybe that's a candidate that's in that Green Bay organization. But yeah, a lot of work to do. And so quarterback or any defensive-minded head coach, quarterback offensive coordinator, those are going to be really big in the coming months.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll get involved with Malik Willis.
I mean, it's the perfect fit, right?
Yeah.
It's like the most obvious. They might have some competition for Malik. Willis might get a nice little payday here because
I wish I was his agent right now.
Quarterbacks, it's like, man, it is very easy to get in. If you're the only girl at the dance, essentially, you're gonna have a lot of suitors, right?
You're gonna have a lot of
Malik
suitors.
Willis is the only free agent quarterback where you could say this guy could start for us right now.
Oh yeah. I've been pushing for him in Pittsburgh,
right? And so that'll be very
his price is not going to be light.
And then there's the draft, which there's one quarterback left. Then there's or one franchise guy seemingly there, unless you get lucky a little bit later in the draft. And we'll see how that all. We're going to talk a lot of draft here in the coming months, and probably tomorrow on this 6-pack podcast. But yeah. Congratulations to Jeff Hafley and the Miami Dolphins. They found their guy. So 4 jobs are down. There's still 6 more to go with 10 job openings in this cycle. Let's rank the Bills and the Raiders and the Cardinals job. And who are the best jobs? Who have the best jobs remaining for those head coach candidates? Next. Today's episode is brought to you by Drip Drop. I'm drinking Drip Drop actually right now, getting myself some electrolytes. And when you're kicking off the year, feeling good is the goal, right? And honestly, hydration is the easiest win. And when you stay on top of it, energy, focus, mood, they all level up. For me, I've been trying to do some intermittent fasting, and it's really important to stay hydrated. And sometimes, just the plain water doesn't cut it, especially when you're grinding through long days, hitting the gym, or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. That's where Drip Drop comes in. Doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better, think clearer, focus, better energy, elevated mood, and even that fresh skin glow. I've got the no sugar. I really like the lemon lime and the peach flavor myself, but you can find a ton of different varieties at dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Drip Drop's science-backed formula is trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro sports teams because it rehydrates you faster and more effectively than water alone. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Just go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. All right, not much time left if you want to get in the action with the NFL playoffs, because FanDuel is officially in playoff mode, and every game day during the NFL playoffs, there's only 2 more of those. We got Championship Sunday, we got Super Sunday. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. The boosts let you lean into whatever your game day instincts tell you, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. And of course, you can find all kinds of different sports and live in-game betting as well at FanDuel. Make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. Now, visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Okay, here we go. Let's crack this 6-pack open. There's 6 jobs remaining. Let's rank those 6 head coach openings. Giants, Titans, Falcons, Dolphins. Those jobs are now spoken for. The 6 remaining jobs in the NFL, Matt, are the Baltimore Ravens, newly Buffalo Bills, now that Sean McDermott was fired after the divisional round of the playoffs, your Pittsburgh Steelers, the Arizona Cardinals, Las Vegas Raiders, and the Cleveland Browns.
Here's how I look at it, is I think it's now a conversation of Ravens versus Bills for the number 1 spot. The Bills have more cap problems, and I think they have more needs than the Ravens in terms of non-quarterback needs to address. But both these teams are good football teams, and you get to work with a great quarterback.
It feels like the Ravens roster is better than the Bills, but the Bills went further than the Ravens.
I know. And Ravens didn't even get in, and I don't think the Ravens roster is wonderful either, quarterback aside.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked much about this, and maybe it's a tomorrow conversation, but I don't know why they kept Billy Bean and bumped him up. Or that's not his name, right? Brandon Bean.
Billy Bean's the baseball.
Yeah, right. I don't think he's done a good job. So I don't love having to work with him. They made him president of the team or something too. He got a promotion, actually. He got a promotion, so he's not going anywhere. I would rather work with Allen than Lamar, but both would be wonderful. I just think Allen has a chance to age better. So they're real close for me for the top job. I think I would prefer the Ravens. I trust the front office a little bit more. I like the roster a little better.
He did. Brandon Bean did bring in Josh Allen, which is the best thing you have going for you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's, all it was. Because clearly you chose quarterback and you chose GM over the head coach. And the other thing is, you sit in the booth and you watch the game with the owner, potentially if you're the GM, and you just have that opportunity to talk about what could have gone better and differently. And usually that's going to come down on the guy that's down there that doesn't have a chance to speak for themselves on game day during the game, unless the results have to speak for themselves. So, I almost want to say I would prefer the Bills job, because I think as awesome as Lamar is, I think just you've seen him start to get hurt, and then quarterback would age better, and I just feel like
I think that's out.
Josh Allen would age better, but he has to stop putting his body on the line too, or else he's going to end up like Cam Newton.
Yeah.
So
he had like 4 injuries when he got eliminated.
And here's the thing. So do you think these two teams, or especially the Baltimore Ravens right now, are waiting around because one of the coaches that's still coaching is their guy? Because Baltimore's had some time now. Now the Bills job,
I don't know.
So the Bills might be saying, "Oh man, we wanted to interview, Saleh and Hafley and Stefanski, but our job wasn't even open yet, so we're kind of behind on this." But the Baltimore Ravens have had some time now since the regular season ended, and the fact that they haven't moved quickly tells me that they're waiting on one of these guys to still coach.
I kind of thought it would be Weaver or Minter. They both have pretty serious Ravens ties, and they wouldn't have to wait for either one of them. I mean, maybe they're just being patient. This is a side note, but I threw this out there in Pittsburgh. If I were Tomlin, I'd be very interested in Buffalo.
Like, oh, never mind. I'm not going to take that team.
Yeah.
This job is going to be open.
I'll take Josh Allen.
That's actually a pretty good match.
Because I can't imagine Buffalo wants to get the upstart. Hopefully he's a good coach mold. They want to win now, I would think.
Do you think that they? This is kind of the thing that happens. You go, the Falcons. They fire the defensive head coach and they bring in the offensive head coach, right?
Yeah.
The Titans fire the offensive head coach, bring in the defensive head coach. The Dolphins fire the offensive head coach, bring in a defensive head coach. Do you think that the ownership and Brandon Bean would say to themselves, you know what, man, let's find the coach that's going to maximize our best asset, which is Josh Allen the most?
Probably.
If it's a coordinator easier, because
I would say Tomlin
danced with OCs there for a while too.
I would think like Tomlin and McDermott are a little redundant. They actually even played together at William and Mary a million years ago. But I wonder. I mean, because the Vegas odds for Buffalo, McDonald, the Dolphins' former head coach, is number 1. Tomlin's number 2 right now. I don't know. McDaniel. I always do that. Yeah,
I do that too. Yeah, Mike McDonald, Mike McDaniel, and then there's like the
Josh
McDaniels with an S. Mike McDaniel has no S.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned him. Like I think.
What were the betting favorites again?
McDaniels and then Tomlin.
McDaniel and
Tomlin. Yeah.
For the Buffalo job.
As of yesterday afternoon. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But you'd have to give something up for Tomlin too.
And so, by the way, we're ranking them. So which one did you have?
Okay, I'm going to go Baltimore slightly ahead of Buffalo, but they're real close. I mean, they're rare opportunities. Rarely do you get that good a job.
Clearly, those are the 2 best jobs. MVP in their prime quarterbacks.
Yeah,
you don't find that.
And then I think the Steelers stand alone at 3.
Steelers 3. Well, hold on a second.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Jeff in
All
the
right.
YouTube comments, who says, aren't you guys underselling the appeal of the Raiders head coach job? Is it the worst? Is it worse than Cleveland, Tennessee, Miami, Arizona? First pick in the draft, tons of cap space, tax-free state, owner who is willing to spend. I think it's top 3, he says. And that was counting the Tennessee job that just went away. Would you rather have what's behind door number 1 in Fernando Mendoza or Jackson Dart or Cam Ward? So I'm going to buy that argument that maybe you have the chance at the best young quarterback in Las Vegas. You have Tom Brady in the building. Owner willing to spend. I don't know how much money they have to spend, but
they'll do that. There's actually second. They have the second most cap space.
Yeah, they should be able to spend cap space wise. I don't know if the deepest pocketed owners is a factor here. But I will for sure buy that argument that you could that it would be better than the Arizona Cardinals job or the Miami job or the Cleveland job because of the quarterback reason.
I agree with everything said there. I can't put it over Pittsburgh. I mean, one team wins and one team doesn't. I mean, it's kind of what that.
If you're a head coach, it's like, man,
that's a pretty nice gig.
Yeah, you could be the coach for 20 years. We've seen how things have gone south so often, no matter where the Raiders are in whatever city they're in.
I mean, how many Raiders coaches were there during Tomlin's stint?
Yeah,
10, 8. You know.
But again, like we talked about this before, the thing we're talking about actually ended up dooming Tomlin in the end because they couldn't get the quarterback right. So
right.
Pretty big deal.
Oh, that's the biggest problem with the Steelers is they might have the worst quarterback situation in the league.
And if you are a candidate, you didn't get a chance to see Fernando Mendoza in the NFL like you did Jackson Dart in New York and Cam Ward in Tennessee. So if you liked what you saw in the NFL, that has to weigh more than just the next college guy, because we've seen some high draft picks not be good NFL quarterbacks.
I would rank those guys Ward, Mendoza, Dart.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm not a big Dart believer, and I love Ward.
And man, it's hard not to like Mendoza with what he's done in the college football playoffs. But again, we've seen, big time Alabama quarterbacks look awesome with their stacked college teams and then go win national championships. Go to the NFL and it looks a lot more difficult for them.
Oh, yeah. So I would not put the Raiders in the same class, though, as Arizona or Cleveland.
Okay.
I think those are terrible.
Clearly the bottom 2 then. Which job do you like more, head coach candidate Matt Williamson, Arizona or Cleveland?
Cleveland's last. I mean, they have no money. They have picks. They have no O-line. The whole offense needs redone. They have no patience.
Is it because they fired you, Matt?
That's exactly why. I should still be there, and we have so many.
You should have been the GM there for the last 20 years.
Yep.
And Mike Tomlin wouldn't have been over 500 all those years.
Right. Out of 5 rings on these fingers. Right. I think that's the worst job in the league if all of them were open.
They have the better defense if you do get quarterback correct, you could be pretty good pretty quick. And it's not like the rest of the division is powerhouse right now.
No, I'd say you would think you're doing to stay out of the North, but I don't think that's scary at all right now.
I think I'd put the Browns job
over Arizona.
The Cardinals, man.
The division stinks with out west there. But
stinks.
Ownership is not very well respected around the league.
No, in either one of those spots.
No.
But Fernando Mendoza alone probably has me with the Raiders for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Over the Browns and Cardinals. So I will agree with Jeff in the comments on that one.
It's a terrible roster, but you could build it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that quarterback hits. You
got
to hit on the quarterback.
But you could add 5 starters in free agency and start to be sort of respectable.
Raiders have to go offensive head coach. So just to assure that they don't screw up the quarterback, because we've seen quarterbacks get screwed up by teams in the past.
Big time. Yeah.
Right. So only offensive coaches for the Raiders for me.
Or a big time coordinator, a proven, been around the block type, Monken type guy,
Yeah. Is that out there?
I don't know who that is off the top of my head either.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
All right. So Williamson's rankings: Ravens, Bills, Steelers, Raiders, Cardinals, Browns.
Yeah. And I would say Bills and Ravens are truly tied.
They're pretty tied.
Yeah.
I think Steelers and Raiders are even. Organizationally, you would want Pittsburgh. You get a young quarterback in Las Vegas. I think they're pretty close for me. But I get that. I mean, ownership probably should matter even more than quarterback in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I'll be honest. I mean, Arizona and Cleveland might be 31 and 32. The Jets are the only one I'd maybe want less.
Right. Yeah. They're just until proven otherwise. That's the class that they're in. Yeah. And the Raiders would be there too if it wasn't for having the first overall pick. And
at least they have some assets.
Mendoza, right?
Mendoza and
Crosby on the defense.
Yeah.
Those are two things that are hard to get in the NFL: the stud defender, stud quarterback.
I also think some of their current players are better than they looked under that coaching staff, like Jackson Powers Johnson.
Right? The offensive line should immediately get better.
The offensive line should be not horrendous. Right?
Staff that was happening under Carroll was just all
bad.
All right. What do you guys think? Let us know at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Get those mailbag questions in to those Twitter handles or on the YouTube comments. Subscribe while you're there. Check out the Everydayer Club, ad-free streams of this podcast, and an invite to a really fun Discord server that I just had started getting in on with the Discord, which has been kind of fun chatting with fans about all kinds of different stuff and every team and the draft. And there's going to be a ton of draft conversation there on the Discord server as well. So NFL6pack.supercast.com to get involved with the Everydayer Club, or check the link in the show notes. And Matt and I back tomorrow right here in the NFL 6-Pack.